I mean, I guess the door still says general contracting, but I'd say we could easily switch it to just, cattle management. We can either just build barns or we can be a cattle business. So I evolved the business into feeding more cattle, having our own barns, really focusing on young guys, trying to get young families that want to stay on the farm to be able to stay on the farm. And instead of just being somebody that can come in and build a barn, let's put a business together that can help you every step of the way. And we've been evolving that ever since. We're starting a lot of program barns where a lot of young guys can come in. We'll guarantee them full of cattle so you can make your payments and get you far enough down the path in this program that 5-6 years from now you can decide, hey, do I want to own all my own cattle? Do I want to be part of this? How I want to do this? But in order for that to work, you have to have the exact same structure. Because if something's going wrong in one of the barns, for instance, we have to eliminate all the obvious stuff. Anybody can build a building, but do you want a system? Do you want to be part of something? Do you want to know that, hey, a lot of guys will build like, I'm going to fill it myself. Well, maybe I should get some custom cattle. Now you're in a network that we say, hey, we're bringing in X amount of cattle anyway. We got overrun. If you're in our system, of course we're going to go there. All my barns are built the same. They have a little tweak here and there, that's fine, but as far as the structure and how it's built is almost identical in all barns. So you have confidence if you're a guy looking to place cattle somewhere, it really doesn't matter where you're placing the cattle. If it's in my barn, it's the same performance. Cattle feeding has evolved drastically in the last 40 years. With the nutritionists that we have today, the program, here's your feed, right? And then here's all your rations for every step of the way. Here's how many days you're going to stay on this ration. Here's how you're going to flip it over. Here's your tracking system, all computerized tracking system. So I can be sitting in my office, click on it, and see what time of day the cattle are getting fed and what they're being fed.
Corp, boy, they've impacted a lot of families here in the Midwest. A lot of young farmers, confinement buildings have been a staple for young people coming up into the cattle industry. You're leaving a legacy. The kids, grandkids, sons, daughters coming up, they're going to have something even 40 years down the road that they're going to be able to sustainably feed cattle in someday.
If you want to come back and you've got some ground you're going to farm, but you have to put something with that to make a living. This is your options. You can either go to town, which is great, or you can put a barn up and feed cattle and incorporate it with your ground. You're getting your fertilizer. Now you're putting a program together that everything benefits the other. And it just makes good sense.
My dad and I have had multiple arguments that we missed out on the hog buildings. And I told Dad, I said, I really don't want to miss out on the cattle buildings. And so Dad came to me one day and says, well, Chad and I are talking. I says, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. What are you talking about? He goes, well, I don't want to miss out on the cattle industry. And I says, perfect. This is what do you want to do? And then Dad decided we're going to put one barn up, and then we all became partners with Chad.
Right now, the biggest hindrance would be banks. Banks that don't quite understand it yet. We have some great relationships with some great banks that really do a great job, but I'd say the limiting factor most of the time is, if you walk into a bank and say, I'm going to spend $1 million, it gets attention. And if it's a small bank and they're not used to that kind of conversation, they will push away from it just out of more of like a 80s and 90s mentality. You can't spend money and do these things. So then these young guys are often, well, I can't do it. Bank says no. Oh, that's not true. we can find you a bank. We're not going to let anybody, we're not going to deal with anybody that's going to put them in a bad position. To date, I've never had a guy that I've built for go under. And I have no intention of letting that happen.
As far as agriculture is concerned with Northwest Iowa, Remsen, and the communities surrounding, American Bank takes a big focus on supporting agriculture, working with farmers and agriculture, trying to assist, work together, basically create a partnership and achieve success for the long term of both the vitality of the farming community as well as our banking organization. And we take finance and agriculture very seriously, and it's a big deal to us.
If you're a young guy with a bank, with a big mortgage, You know, and you walk into that bank, the difference between going in there and saying, hey, I want to borrow $1 million to do this, the difference between getting the loan and not getting the loan very well might just be, you have a program in place. What are you doing to protect this? Well, I've got this going, so we're going to try and make a little money constantly. Oh, that makes sense. That's a business plan. The other one is just saying, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be okay. Farming is the largest business on the planet. Most people don't understand that, right? I mean, it's an unbelievably huge business, and we can't operate like we did 40, 50 years ago. You know, it wasn't that long ago that if you just woke up every day and worked all day, you made a little money doing everything you could. Those days are gone, so now what are we focused on? We're focused on quality of life, plus trying to make a living. That you have to have good business practices in that. I think if you're a young cattleman, or woman, obviously, if you want to be in this business, you absolutely can be. There's a path to get into it. I mean, if you've been in the farm at all, and this is a path you want to go down, it's very manageable, it's very doable. Your competition's less than it ever has been because unfortunately there's just fewer people to stay back. So there's more room to grow and expand. Think about what's going to happen in agriculture in Iowa in the next 20 years. The amount of farms that are going to change hands out of family generations is going to be unprecedented. That's just simply the way it's going to be. So if you want to be part of it, there's never been a better time to be part of it. If you have a good business plan, stick to it, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to expand.
Chad and his team are innovators. They really are, and that's something that we definitely respect them for. And they're so different than any other builder that we deal with because they actually believe in the system enough to own the buildings that they sell and promote, and then they also feed the cattle, so they're able to relate so much better to an end producer, but they're constantly trying to figure out better ways to feed cattle, better ways to build a building, more efficient ways to change the cattle industry.
At the end of the day, I'd love to, be an old man in Marcus, Iowa and see it, went from 1,200 to 2,500 people. These small towns, to survive, you have to have something. And we have a lot of farm ground. We have to figure out a way to use it well.